Do you have a perception that perhaps once you graduate, budgeting will be easier than when you were a student?
Not necessarily. I think what we were talking about earlier, like you have a little bit more responsibility in tax, and obviously not just income tax but council tax. Depending where you live or work, you're going to have to pay maybe transport costs. Maybe a few years down the line, if you've got children like yourself, you're going to have to plan for them. And obviously you've got to start paying back your student loan and your overdraft. So,
I mean, before I came to uni, I took a year out and was like paying rent like on the flat and stuff. And every time I paid my landlord, my body shook. I felt it. Like, you could generally feel the money going over. Whereas now, I go online and I'll just be like, £900 transfer. Like, you don't feel as if you've worked for that money, so you don't feel as if it's a kind of a big thing, whereas before it was. So I think it's going to be a lot tougher realising that everything that you're working for is like going towards things like rent and things that you might not necessarily see.
And I think that's where budgeting definitely will have to be more important and more, you know, you definitely got to think about it more, because like you say, your outgoings have now increased. You now have to think about what you've got coming in. Then you have to think about living on that until your next month, however you get paid, weekly, monthly, full weekly. You know, different ways you get paid, different ways, different times of the month. You've got to ensure that, well, I only get paid once a month, but I don't know, you got your direct debits varied. So now you've got to think, well, on the 12th that's going to go out, but I don't get paid until the 22nd, so I've got to leave the money in for that date, otherwise you're in your overdraft, or you've gone over your limit. Then you sort of got charges thinking about. It's just, so you definitely, that's when budgeting is absolutely crucial when you leave university.
Yeah. One thing I do seem to notice, because previously I've had a mortgage and I've rented privately, rental profit prices for student houses seems artificially low in comparison to the real world. And I know a lot of us do share, but I'm only two in a house, and it's so cheap compared to like the minute you go out there and get a job, all of a sudden they just seem to go sky high. So there's a realisation as well of things like that happening. And as you said about putting so much money towards one aspect of your life, it can be a shock when you step out of the university circle and go and do it. It's a huge amount of your income, and to a lot of people it feels wasted just being rent rather than mortgage as well. But that's a very tough game.
And I think the shock also comes from the fact that when you're a student, you really feel, though you might not admit it to yourself, you really feel like there's a safety net in which you'll always be cool. Like, for example, I came a bit stuck last year. I was like, what am I going to do? Obviously, you've got the option of asking parents, they feel sorry for you, you're a student, so that's one option. And then what I actually had to do was apply for a access to learning fund. And that really helped. Like, got like, I don't know, £500 or something towards kind of my costs. So you always feel as if you've got that support as a student. Like, there's always somebody feeling sorry for you who can help you out. Whereas, you know, when you go out in the big wide world, if you've not got it,
that is very, very true. Yeah.